Talk to Heilige Gemara. On Erev Shabbos, we learned the Mishnah that had three shitas in a deteriorated coin. At what point is it becoming null? When it's deteriorated by 1/6, by 1/12, or by 1/24. That's the first halacha that the Mishnah said. The second halacha that the Mishnah said was there's a limited time for someone to be able to claim that the coin that he received was undervalued. Bikrochim, if it's in a big city, it's for the time it takes to go to El Shulchani. And if it's in a small city, it's still Erev Shabbos where people are in the marketplace buying things. Because at that point, he'll know if his coin is accepted. Then the Mishnah says something that needs explanation, and it says that if the person who passed out that coin recognizes it, then he even has to take it back after a year. And there's only taruma. So that's a little bit vague what that means, because we just said that the deadline is either at the time it takes to Shir Shulchani or Erev Shabbos. So the Gemara is going to have to explain what that means. And the last halacha in the Mishnah is even though it's a somewhat created coin, you could use it to be Mechal Mashusheni. And you're not worried because Be'etzim it's a good coin. It's only Nefesh Ra that would complain about such a coin. Zok Tehel Gemara, just below the top of today's daf Nun Beis Amarav. We're mini. Frag the Gemara. Our Mishnah's Lashon is, until what point could it be missing and there won't be Aino? Which is mashma that even if it's missing by a 6th, a 12th, or a 24th, there would not be Aino. But the Brisa says, Ad kamate aselach zervi, which is mashma that's exactly 1/12th, exactly 1/24th, exactly 1/6th, and there would be Aino. Amar Papa loy kasha, it's not a stira. It all depends on where we're starting. So, Chula Alma Moida, if it's missing exactly 1/6, or exactly 1/12, or exactly 1/24th, everybody agrees that is a no, that's not good. Tana Didon, our Tana, who says until what point could it be chaser and it won't be a no, choshev mimatalo lamad. He's starting from a very small degradation. If it's missing 1/100th, 1/50th, all those are not a no. Until it reaches either 1/12th, 1/24th, or 1/6th. But Tana Bra, the Brisa that says that Kamate Aselach Aser Yibano is talking about the other side. If it's a half of it is degraded, for sure there's a no. If a third is degraded, it's a no. If 6 is degraded, that's the end of the line. That's where there's a no, but no further. Or 1/12th or 1/20th. But they both mean the same thing. So Tana Didan Kachoshav Mimata Lamaila, Tana Bra Kachoshav Milamaila Lamaila. Practical Gemara. We have over here a three-way machlokes. What's called a no by a coin? 1/24th, 1/12th, or 1/6. By begodim, we only had one svar in the Mishnah. It's 1/6. So frankly, Ma'ishna Besela the Pligi, there's a machlokes how much is considered a no. U'ma'ishna Betalas the Pligi. Zakti Gemara Amarava Man Tanatalis Rab Shemini. In fact, the same machlokes that applies to coins applies to begodim, but the Tana of the Mishnah about begodim that says I know is 1/6 is Reb Shimon, who in our Mishnah also agrees that for a coin it's 1/6. However, Abaye Omer, everybody agrees, even though they have different shiurim by coins, what's considered a no, but everybody agrees talat achtus mochel inish. Everyone will be mochel. You know why? The Amri Inchi, the Velt says, Ashik ligabeich. Even allow yourself to be ripped off to buy yourself clothing. You have to buy yourself good clothing. Sometimes you're going to pay more than they're worth. So there a person would be masking even up to a 6th extra to pay. But for Shavi Lakarsa, when you buy yourself food, only buy exactly based on its value, don't overpay. But Sella, when it comes to money, given if it's not going to be accepted by vendors, loy mochel. He won't be mochel. It doesn't make a difference how much it was degraded. If it's not going to be accepted by vendors, he's not going to accept those coins. Therefore, there's different shurim, 124, 112. Gufa Frakti Gemara. Akama tehei asela chasera v'hebaino. The Mishnah quotes three shitas how much a seller can lose before there's a no. Meir Abba Israel, which is Israel dinner, which is 1 out of 24. Yudamer Dal Pidyanis, which is Punyan dinner, which is 1 out of 12. Shumanamer Shmona Pidyanis, Shnei Pidyanim dinner, which is 1/6. Yeser Al Kain. What if the coin is worth more than these values? In other words, it didn't degrade enough to reach those thresholds. Moicha B'Shavya. Rashi says you're allowed to sell it as if it's a full valued coin with no degradation at all. At kamati paches be even once it's degraded, there's a no, but you still ought to keep the coin. You have to just deduct from the price. How much can the coin degrade before you actually have to dispose of it completely? And why would you need to dispose of it completely? We're going to see, because it could be confused with a different coin, and then there's an opportunity to take advantage of somebody. Zog to Gemara, besela, if it's a seller at shekel, up until the value of a shekel, which is 50%. And Rashi tells us, you know why? Because if it's a seller that's being degraded, you'll know it's a degraded seller. But once it goes below the value of a shekel, a seller that's degraded could sometimes be mistaken for a good shekel. And we're afraid that by the time it reaches the point where it's even worth less than a shekel, you'll pass it off as a shekel. Therefore, you got to get rid of it completely. And bedinner, I drive until a quarter. Pachas mekain iser, if it's an iser lower than that, usher than it's usher. The Gemara is going to ask, what do you mean pachas mekain iser? Pachas mekain, even a mashu should be a problem. That's the shear, that's the shear. Why do you get more leeway up to an iser's value? Hareza, if you have a coin that's deteriorated to this point, a seller to the point of a shekel and a dinner to the point of a roiva, hareza loyim kirena, you're not allowed to sell this anymore. Loy the tapper is not to a merchant, not to somebody who forces people to sell things and they'll give them this bad money. Not to somebody who's going to threaten to kill somebody unless they sell them something, and again, they're going to give them this bad money. Why? If you allow these monies into circulation, you give them to these people, they're going to force other people to accept them. And we don't want people to get ripped off in the value of the money, so therefore, if there's money that could be suspect, that it can be used to cheat, take it out of circulation. What do you do with it? Drill a hole through it and make it into a charm for a necklace. We're going to analyze this price. Beselat shekel, bedinat roiv. Frankly, ma'ishna beselat shekel, which is only halfway degraded, u'ma'ishna bedinat roiva, which you're telling me you could lose 3/4 of its value, and it's still going to be usable. How could that be? Why is a dinner any different than a shekel? So we're halfway down the bottom of Nun Beis Amud Aleph, where the Gemara quotes a brisa that says, if you had a sell that degraded to the point of a shekel, which is about half of its value, you got to throw it out. You can't keep it in circulation. But if you have a dinner, it's good up until a quarter of its value, up until roiva. So, Frank the Gemara, Maishno besela at shekel. Why is it that if you have a seller, it can degrade 50% up to a shekel, and then you got to throw it out? By a dinner, it can degrade 3/4 of its value till a quarter. Amar Abaye, that's not what it means. It's also 50% of its value. My roiva, when it says a dinner can degrade up until a roiva, it doesn't mean up until it's worth a quarter of its original value. Roiva is the name of a coin that happens to be half of the value of a dinner. So my roiva dekatani nami is roiva shekel, a quarter of a shekel. A quarter of a shekel is a half a dinner. Amarava dekanami. It actually is meduyak in the lashon of the brisa. The katani roiva but like katana revia. Revia means a quarter. Roiva can actually mean the name of a coin, and that's what it means when the dinner degrades until it's the same value as the coin roiva, which is 50% of the value of the dinner. You cannot use it anymore. Shemamina. Frankly, more lamalei lemitalia le dinner b'shekel. Why taka did we say the dinner until it becomes a roiva shekel? We should have said a dinner until it loses half of its value. Vosapis, we're comparing it to the roiva, which is a roiva of a shekel. So the Tana is telling us one additional extra piece of information, and that is the kedinir the asim shekel. There are some dinarim that actually started off as a shekel, and they deteriorated, and that's when they became into a dinner. Masai the Rabami, we have a right to Rabami, Dom Rabami, dinner Abami Shekel, Mutal Kaimui. If you have a dinner that wasn't originally made as a dinner, it was originally made as a shekel, but it degraded to the point that now it's only worth a dinner, that's still a kosher coin. But dinner Abami Sela, but if it started off as a Sela, also the Kaimui, Rashi says because that could sometimes be confused with a shekel, and we don't want any such money that can be confused with a higher denomination. We don't want that in circulation at all. Pachas mikain iser. If it's an iser less than half, then usher. Frankly, my comer. What do you mean? If it's an iser less, the shear is half. If it's a mashu less, it should already be usher l'kaima. It's not referring to the second case where it became degraded to half, where you have to get rid of it. Rather, it's going on the earlier case of at what point it becomes a no, 1/6, 1/12, or 1/24. So Pechsa Sela, Yosy Michdei no, if the Sela was degraded more than Kedei no, how much? And is there, then it's Aser. Amalei Rava, that's the same problem again. If 6 is Kedei enough, 1/6 is Kedei enough, a mashu less is no good. If 1/12, a mashu less. Why the leeway of an Isser? Zok Gemara, we have to tell you a new shot in the Brisa. Elamarava, Pichsa seller Isser ladinner. If a seller degraded an Isser for every dinner, that ratio, Osir, the stomach Reb Meir, and this would be going according to Reb Meir, who in the Mishnah taught us, it's 1 out of 24. Tanan Osam, we learned the Brisa. Selah shenifsela, you had a seller that became possible. The Eskina, so it's no longer anything, it's just a piece of metal, and you decided that you're going to use it as a counterweight. The Eskina, you were masakin it she a shekel b'mishkolis. So now it's like a keli again. It becomes a counterweight. Timeo, it's now going to be mekabaltum as a keli. At kama tipaches v'yeher shai lekama. How much can a coin degrade and you're still allowed to keep it in circulation? L'sela, if you start off as a sela, shnei dinarim. 2 dinarim, which is half of a sela. Pachas mekain, if it becomes further degraded, yikots. You have to chop up that coin. You have to destroy the coin, like slicing up a credit card. Yisrael kain mai. What if it's more than half, but it's less than the threshold of oinah? Amar Rav Huna, pachas mekain yikots. Yisrael kain yikots. Rav Huna holds the moment it hits the threshold of oinah, you can't keep the coin anymore. It's got to be destroyed. Rabbi Omar, pachas mekain yikots, but Yisrael kain yikots. Rabbi said no. The only time you have to destroy a coin if it loses 50% of its value. From 50 until the point of Ainah, which depending on which your shita is, either 1/6, 1/12, or 1/24, there you can use it. You just have to reduce its value, but about that you can still keep the coin. Meisvei, the Gemara is going to ask the Kasha on Rafuna. The Gemara is going to prove that Avada, the layer in between, from Ainah till 50%, should Avada be a good coin, you should be able to keep it. Why? Because the Bride said, yes, sir. Let's turn over onto Daf Nun Beis, Amud Beis. The Bride says, yes, or okay, if it's worth more than 50%, you could sell it for its value. Zog to Gemara, my love, what exactly is the degradation level that we're discussing when it says Moichel B'Shavim? Shepichsa Yosy Mechdei Na'asa. It became worth less than Kedei Na'asa. You're still allowed to sell it for whatever it's valued at. So you have a raya against Rav Huna, because according to Rav Huna, you have to destroy it once it became devalued more than Kedei Na'asa. So that's where Rav Huna will learn different pshat of the Mishnah. He'll learn Lo Yisera. He's talking about if a coin wasn't even yet degraded to the point of Ainah. There Mecheres B'Shavia, and their B'Shavi means not its actual value, but its full value. If it has not yet degraded to the point of Ainah, the coin can be treated based on its full value. So that kasha on Rav Huna was found. We'll try another kasha. Meisvei, at kamati paches v'yeh reshoy l'kaim. How much can a coin degrade and you still want to keep it? Zokar b'selat shekel. Frank Gemara, how did that happen? It happened little by little. It's slowly degrading. that means you can keep it even though it's degraded more than Kedei Nasa. My love, the Pachas, Porta. And you're allowed to keep it up until it reached the point of half. So you have a raya against Rav Huna. We're talking about where it fell into the fire and it got reduced right away in one shot, and that's where Rav Huna holds. Omar Mar, you drill a hole in it and you make it as a charm for a necklace for a son or daughter. Frankly, Gemara, I'm going to prove to you from another branch that you're not allowed to drill a hole in it and use it as a charm. Or a mini. You're not allowed to use it as a counterweight. You're not allowed to just throw it into his scrap metal pile. But here, what's negate to us is you're not allowed to make a hole in it and use it as a necklace charm. Or grind it down, or yitach, or melt it down, or yikach, or cut it up, or throw it into the Yamamelech. Amar Belazar from Rav Huna, Amar Belazar like kasha. It's not fair. Come back to Kamenatzad. If you can drill a hole smack in the middle of the coin, no problem, because you'll never be able to be confused for a coin. But if you drill the hole up on the edge of the coin, then you can technically cut out another circle out of it that won't have any hole in it. And you could still lead to problems. That's why you're not allowed to do it. Zok to more about here. Admatan mutar lahachzer b'krachim. I'm sorry. Admatan mutar lahachzer b'krachim al shiyira l'shulchani b'kfar madar b'shabbosis. Frek gemar ma'ishna b'sela the maflik. Why by sela doesn't make a difference if you're in the kfarim or in the krachim. Ma'ishna b'talis. Then no matter where you are, it's only kedei shiyira l'chaber l'tagar. The loy maflik. There's no difference between where it is if it's a krach or a kfar. Amar Abaye, in fact there is. But Kitnan Nami Masnizin Betalis Bekrochen. Our Mishnah Taka is speaking about in the big city, but in the Kfar maybe you'd have more time. Tanan we learned. I'm sorry. Kitnan Nami Masnizin Betalis Bekrochen Tanan. Period. Rav Amar no. Everybody agrees by a talis you don't need so much time, even if you're in the Kfar. You know why? Because Kol Inish Kimle Bigava. A talis, even paupers, even country people know how to assess the value of a baguette. So he can get a second opinion right there in his little derfel, in his little village. But Sela, which requires a much higher level of expertise, even the lav kalinish kimle begabe el shulchani, you need to have a shulchani. You have time until you can get to a shulchani, and big farm like a shulchani are the arbe shabbosos. What happens on Erev Shabbos? The Salk and the Shuk, that's when everyone goes to buy food in the Shuk for Shabbos, and if the coins aren't accepted, that's how they'll know that these coins are not valid. V'maya makira, if you recognize the coin, afilu lachashnei mosacharish. Frankly, I don't understand what's going on. We already have shura. Heicha ibik krachin harmid at shira l'shulchan, and ibik farim harmid at average shavosas. So where do you have 12 months? Amar Christa meikradin, the shurim given are the hard cutoffs. But midas chasidish shanuka, if someone wants to be super ehrlich, and someone comes to him a year later with a coin that he gave him last year, and the coin isn't good, it's a midas chasidis to take it back. Frank Gemara, that doesn't make sense. Because the Yachem is safe. Look at the safe of this price. Ein lo alav el terumas. I'm sorry, the safe of our Mishnah. Ein lo alav el terumas. He only has terumas. So who has terumas? Lama. Ila chasid, if the chasid could have terumas because the guy brought it back, don't have tinus. Loy kibula lik b'laminei. Loy terumas tiavale. If you don't want to take it back, don't take it back. Don't take it back and then have terumas. Velahek, you tell me the guy who gives it back, he can have terumas? The kabbalah minei, the guy who you were kind enough to take it back from him and refund his money, he can have terumas. Ulabazu the makabel minei. Terumas tavale. I don't understand. He got whatever he wanted. He got his refund. Now he has the chutz with terumas too. So what's pshat in the Mishnah? If you're not a guy who's doing midas chassidus and you refuse to take it back, then then the person who got stuck with the bad coin, the most that he has is terumas. But there's no legal argument, taina, to force him to refund the money. Really, it's a good coin, and therefore you're allowed to use it to be machal ma'asher sheni on it. And the havamin is that it's at full value. Omar Papa Shmamina, you know what you see from this line in the Mishnah? Haimad the mukim azuzi, if someone stels on nudniking about the coin. It's a little worn out. I don't want to take it. Mikri nefesh ra. The time in the Mishnah calls him a nefesh ra. But the hani mili hu desagilim. That's only if the coin is actually going to be good and be accepted by vendors. If the coin is not accepted, it's not a nefesh ra not to accept it. You're not going to accept a coin that you wouldn't be able to use. This would be a right of Chizkiah who holds that you're allowed to be mechal onto Ma'aser Sheni even though you're running out of credit. Meaning, even though the coin might not be worth the full $10, you're allowed to put $10 in Ma'aser Sheni on, even though the coin's a little rubbed out. That's a right of Chizkiah. If you want to take coins and cash them in Yerushalayim for nechoshes, for prutos, because you want to spend money, part of b'shavia. If it's not worth the full $10, it's worth a little less than that, then that's all you get for it. You can't steal from the people who are giving you prutos. You get what the coin is worth. But balachala on the way in, when you're putting the kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni onto the coin, mechala b'yafa, even though it's not worth the full $10 because it was somewhat degraded, you're allowed to use it to be mechala full $10 worth of Ma'aser Sheni. Frank the Gemara, my Kamar, I don't understand. What is the chiddush that you're not supposed to rip somebody off when you're cashing it into silver for prutas, and that you're not supposed to take more than the coin is valued? What's the chiddush of that? Zok the Gemara, I'll tell you what the chiddush is. Afal pika shavala parta b'shavya, even though technically this coin is not worth its full value, and therefore when you cash it in for prutas, you're going to have to accept less prutas for it. Nevertheless, kishu mechalala, when you're putting the kedusha Ma'aser Sheni on this coin, you're allowed to consider it as it's worth the full $10. Frank the Gemara, remember the Savar Chizkiah, the Mizal Zalina b'Ma'aser Sheni? Are you telling me that according to Chizkiah, you don't have to be so medactic with Ma'aser Sheni, and you could actually overload the coin? And even though the coin's only worth a little bit less than 10, because it's degraded, you can still put a full value of 10 on it? Chizkiah holds Adara. You're not allowed to fully load up. If you have a coin with 10, you should only put 9 on it. What if you had Ma'aser Sheni, but you didn't have a Shava Pruta's worth? And the law is you cannot be Mechal unless there's a Shava Pruta. So how are you going to do this chil over here? Zok Chizkiah, I have a very good idea. What you do is, this tiny little bit of Ma'aser Sheni, together with the Tzroimish, which in total is less than the Pruta, Muchulal, where should I be Mechal? You can't be Mechal unless there's a Pruta. Muchulal al Mois HaRishonos. You know what you do? Take money that you were already mechalal other Ma'aser Sheni on, and we'll assume there's a little bit of room on it for this less than the Shava Pruta to be mechalal on that money. Most people are not going to fill up the money exactly full with Ma'aser Sheni because they're afraid that they might not have enough money to cover the Ma'aser Sheni, and some of it will remain not mechalal. Therefore, they make sure always to leave room. Therefore, since there's a little bit of extra room, you can put this pachas b'shav pruta on it. Zog to Gemara. So it's very fair because you said a second ago, according to Chizkiah, you could overload a coin. You could put $10 on it, even though the coin's not worth $10. But here you see Chizkiah held the opposite. You actually don't even fill up the coin because you're afraid you're going to run out of space. Zog to Gemara, you're right. When Chizkiah said mechala b'yafa, he doesn't mean that you could put $10 worth of Ma'aser Sheni on a coin that's worth a little bit less. That's not what he meant at all. What he meant is my biyafa b'torisha. It just means that avada you cannot put on the coin more than its value, maybe even a little bit less. But it means if you have a coin that's somewhat degraded, we don't say it loses its status of a coin b'chlal, and you cannot be b'chal any Ma'aser Sheni on. A zoyvayt will let you use a degraded coin to be b'chal Ma'aser Sheni on. But of course, only based on its value and a little less, not more. The trey zidi loy mizal zalin will allow you to use a degraded coin, but to also consider it as it's fully valued, that we're not going to do. Gufas up Gemara. Let's analyze Chizkiah Allah. Omer Chizkiah Ma'aser Sheni Shein B'Shava Pruta. Omer, you say Hu v'Chumshoy Mechulal Al Ma'aser Rishonos. Why? Because there's for sure room on the other coin that you used to put Ma'aser Sheni on. He always leaves some space. So Chizkiah here has a patent, has a eitzah, how you can be mechal pachas b'shava pruta of Ma'aser Sheni. Frank Gemara, if Chizkiah has such a plan, it's going to cause a huge problem with the following mission. Meisvei. Hatruma v'abikurim chayovin alei misa. Truma and bikurim, if a yizar eats them b'chayv misa, v'chaymish, if he eats them b'shoigig, when he pays back the coin, he has to add 20%. Let's continue on to Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. V'asurim l'zorim, a zor may not eat truma. Ve'nichse koyin, truma and bikurim belong to koyin, you can be mekadosh and isha with it. V'oilim b'acher umeya, if it got mixed in b'chulin, you need 101 keneged to be mevatlet. Utunim chichis yadayim, to eat truma, you need to wash your hands, because yadayim midarbanan are shniyos, and they'll be metama the truma, make it into shlishi l'truma, and that'll pass on the truma. V'harav shemesh, we know what harav shemesh is. If a koyin needed to go to the mikveh, he can't just come out of the mikveh and eat truma. He has to wait for nightfall, which is the very first mishnah in Shas. And one of the times was when the kohen comes to eat his truma. In other words, evening. So harelu b'truma bikurim. These chumras apply to truma bikurim. Mashenka b'maiser, but they don't apply to maiser. Frankly, mashenka b'maiser. What exactly are we trying to say? A chumra that applies to truma, not maiser. Lav mechlal the ma'aser batal beruba. It must be that while truma is only oila b'mei be'echad, ma'aser is batal b'roi. Frank the Gemara, why would ma'aser ever need to be batal b'roi? Zok Rashi, the only time because if ma'aser mixes in with chulin, big deal. What's the problem? Why do I need it to become batal b'roi? There's no reason to make it batal. You could either be poided, and then you don't need a batal b'roi. Be poided, it's not ma'aser anymore. So it must be the case of Rashi is where you have ma'aser that was tamei, that was less than the shava pruta that got mixed in. So there you can't be mevatlet anymore. Why? I'm sorry. There, forget you couldn't be mevatlet. There you cannot be pointed anymore because you can't be pointed pachas mishava pruta of ma'aser, and since you can't be pointed it, you're stuck. The only way you can be matered is with roy. If you had another way to be matered, like with chilo, then it's a davar sheyesh lebatirin, and afilu be'elaf lebatim. So in order to say that there's a bittul b'roi b'maiser, it has to be a davar she'ein lebatirin. But the problem is, according to Chizkiah, even if it's less than the Shabbat Pruta, you could be mechalit using his special eitzah that he had. The Mizda Chizkiah, havu davar sheyesh lebatirin, v'chol davar sheyesh lebatirin, afilu be'elaf lebatim. And if it's not going to be bottle, then what good does it do to us that Meiser is bottle b'roi? So that's the kasha on Chizkiah. We will stop here. Everyone's busy preparing for Pesach. Hamisham will be mamshik tomorrow. We'll chazer over this kasha, but basically that's what it is. Chizkiah had a special patent how to be mechal Meiser pach b'shav pruta, and now that he has that patent, we shouldn't need bittul anymore. And why does the bride say that Meiser will be bottle b'roi? Okay, I want to wish everybody a good tavach, a gebench tavach, a mazel.
A good tavach.